Previously, we saw that Diana and Matthew had to flee their time for protection and safety. However, in their time away, many things happened in the 21st century. Knox officially came to his lowest of lows, and in an attempt to get the page of the Book of Life, he deliberately hurt poor Em. And it seems like she will not make it through the night. Her partner, Sarah, is sitting beside her, and suddenly Diana and Matthew emerge into the room, hand in hand. Diana's smile fades as she sees her aunt lying there, and at that moment, Em closes her eyes forever. Matthew tries to console the devastated Diana, but she is in too much pain to hear him. But soon, he says that Em would be proud of her and the 2 babies that she is growing in her belly. Diana is too stunned to speak as she realizes that she will give birth to 2 kids. She is happy, but at the same time, her heart aches for her Aunt Em. Sarah, on the other hand, is a mess after her partner's death. Issa holds an official dinner with all her children and guests so that she can celebrate the arrival of her son and Diana. There, Gallowglass and Hamish arrive to give their condolences as well as meet the couple again. Diana is happy seeing her friend again and hugs him tightly, but Matthew, for some odd reason, does not even shake hands with his nephew and only greets him from far away. This tips Diana off, but she does not say much. Later, Matthew gives a speech as a memorial for Em and promises to ensure that the congregation does not harm them anymore. Sarah is relieved Diana is back, but losing Em is taking a toll on her mental health. Diana goes to Sarah to keep her company, but Sarah makes an odd request from her. She asks her to reverse time so she can save Sarah from Knox, but Diana refuses and says that she cannot mess with time like this. Sarah is annoyed but does not push it further since even she knows that her request is unethical. She later goes out for a walk when suddenly the page of the Book of Life appears. Sarah knows that Em passed away saving the page, so she picks it up and hurriedly goes inside for safekeeping. The next day, Em's funeral takes place at the same temple where she passed away. Sarah is too deep in her grief to take charge of the activities, so Diana proves to be the more active alternate. But even she chokes up at the speech, and Sarah, for the sake of love, comes forward and helps Diana. They both are hurt beyond repair, so they need each other for support. She gives Diana the page from the Book of Life, and in anger, Diana promises to avenge the death of her aunt and parents from Knox. Meanwhile, things have gone messier at the congregation. Gerbert and Domenico tell Baldwin that the blood rage killings have gotten worse, and it is because of interspecies relations. Then Knox goes on to reveal that Agatha has been hiding a witch baby born to demon parents from the congregation. Agatha is frustrated and angry at him for bringing her granddaughter into the sensitive matter, so she quickly jumps and says that Knox killed Em on vampire territory, and she demands his dismissal. Baldwin is angry at him for entering his land, so he votes for his dismissal, and Agatha's motion is successful after Sadhu surprisingly votes against him. Knox is shocked but hits rock bottom because he threatens the safety of young Margaret. Agatha, after seeing the look in his eyes, realizes that she might have made the mistake of poking the bear, and fears for the safety of her family. Later, Baldwin comes to Sept Tours to meet his brother and his unwanted guests. He asks for a family dinner and only allows family members to join. At the dinner, the environment is buzzing with tension. But Baldwin cuts the silence by baiting Marcus and Matthew. When they do not give him satisfactory answers, he pokes Diana by taunting her unborn children and her. Diana is smart not to say anything, but after a lot of pressure from Baldwin, Matthew angrily stands up and leaves the room because his anger is getting the best of him. Diana leaves after him to console him, and they both have a heart-to-heart. Later that night, Marcus has an idea to save the twins from the congregation. He asks Matthew to make his own sign because he is now a father and eligible to do so. Matthew immediately refuses and says that he will not betray his family. Diana does not accept Marcus's idea, but she does not reject it either. The next day, everyone, including Diana and Matthew, leaves the Sept Tours as Baldwin ordered them to. Diana and her family reach London, where they are staying with an old friend of Matthew. Matthew reveals that he would like to study the page of the Book of Life so that he can find a cure for blood rage, and his future children will not have to suffer from the same disease as he did. Diana chips in and says that she knows a person who can give them a lab and hand in the research. They both go to inspect it and meet the owner of the lab, Dr. Chris Roberts, who is also Diana's best friend. They both hug, and Kais playfully says that Diana has been missing for a long time, to which Diana laughs. Matthew likes the lab, but Diana urges him to reveal the truth about them so that Chris can work better on his research. Diana uses her magic to create a bouquet of flowers from water, and Chris looks at it mesmerized. He agrees to help Matthew and Diana and decides to work with Miriam since she knows a lot about their biology. On the other hand, a dark room is shown where a vampire is looking at himself in the mirror. His identity is not revealed at that moment, but then he gets a call which says that his father is back. He abruptly leaves, and the image of Diana comes, which points out that the mysterious vampire was no other than Matthew's son Benjamin. And he is coming for both of them next, specifically, Diana. In the last episode, we saw that the blood rage killer who is killing people left and right is still roaming openly. But Matthew does not care less as he is stuck in finding a cure for blood rage. Matthew and Diana are leaving after having another session with Dr. Chris when a car stops in front of them. Father Hubbard appears before them and says that Diana left something of hers in his care. Then Jack emerges out of the car, and now he is much older than the cute boy he used to be. Seeing him, Diana sighs with satisfaction and looks at him with admiration. They take both Hubbard and Jack back to their house, where Matthew asks why Jack is into a vampire now. Diana is sitting close to Jack and holds him tight as if he will disappear from her sight. But Jack looks uncomfortable. Not from Diana but from Matthew. Matthew is asking Hubbard why he sired Jack into a vampire when he was living a good life, but Hubbard says that Jack was lonely. He said that Jack wanted nothing but his parents, and when Hubbard revealed their true intentions, he agreed to become a vampire so he could see them again. Diana's heart melts at the revelation, and her love deepens, but Matthew is still unnecessarily angry at Hubbard and Jack. He takes out his anger on his wife later by saying that her giving Hubbard her blood was extremely dangerous. Diana counters that she is a powerful witch and she tampered with her blood to protect Matthew and herself. Matthew is still not satisfied with the answer, but Diana is done giving him answers. Later, he meets Jack and half-heartedly says that he is glad Jack is alive and well. But Matthew is still very detached and does not give him the love he craves so much for. Matthew and Diana later leave for another session with Dr. Chris, and he reveals that in order to get a cure in time, they need more samples and help. Matthew is hesitant to tell more humans about vampires and witches, but Diana and Miriam insist him into explaining to everyone the truth. On the other hand, Baldwin comes to London to check on his family when he sees Jack with Gallowglass. He asks Jack to leave, to which Gallowglass nods and silently asks him to leave for a while. But Baldwin insults Jack by implying that he is not part of the family. Jack gets angry at him, and suddenly his face morphs into a blood-raged. He attacks Baldwin and bites his neck, but Baldwin is too strong and pushes him away. Matthew and Diana, who are now in their bedroom, hear the commotion and hurriedly go downstairs. They see that Baldwin has his hold on Jack's neck and has him kneeling on the floor. Seeing his face, Matthew knows that Jack has blood rage. And at that moment, Baldwin bites Jack to steal his memories. He sees all the murders that Jack committed and looks up, shocked. He says that Jack is the wanted blood rage killer they have been looking for, and Matthew and Diana are stunned. Baldwin tries to attack Jack, but Diana uses her powers to create a chain around Baldwin's neck and asks him to set her son free. Matthew comes in between both of them and asks to free each other. Baldwin loses his grip, and Jack scumbles free and goes onto the corner, where he is hysterical. Diana rushes towards him, but all the vampires, including Jack, scream at her not to go near him. Baldwin says that he will destroy the family, but Matthew kneels before him and explains that he was not aware of the secret, and Baldwin orders him to kill Jack. Matthew is extremely vulnerable in the situation, and he says that he will do what is necessary. But Jack hears his words and runs using his supersonic speed. Later, Diana asks Matthew not to kill Jack, but Matthew says that he will only free Jack from the misery of being a killer. Sarah says that he is being stupid for killing his own son, but Matthew says that it is necessary to protect the family name. Again, Diana tries to argue that a cure is on the way, but Matthew is still very stubborn and leaves for his mission. Matthew traces the scent to an abandoned bridge and sees Jack kneeling there with his blood rage barely in control. Jack says that if Matthew wants to kill him, then he understands, but Matthew is hesitant to do so. Jack goes on to say that he was unaware of the disease, and when he did realize it, he wanted to kill himself. But Philippe talked him out of it. Something strikes Matthew's head, and he says that he will try to teach Jack how to control his blood rage. He takes the now calm Jack back to their home, where Diana is waiting for them on the stairs. She hugs Jack hard, telling him that she will always love him no matter what. Now that Matthew has 3 kids, he agrees with Marcus's idea of forming a new scion and goes to New Orleans with him to convince Marcus's children to join their scion. He knows that it will be a tough task, so only Matthew, Marcus, and Jack leave the next day. There, Benjamin calls Matthew and taunts him here and there. He asks Matthew to open his mail, where he sent a video. In the video, Benjamin encourages Jack's blood rage and basically makes him a killer. Jack is anxious about seeing the video, and Matthew realizes that it was all Benjamin's plan to get to him. Benjamin says that he will soon have a family reunion, including Diana and Matthew's twins. Previously, we saw Matthew and his sons, Marcus and Jack, leave for New Orleans to get support for his scion as well as get a sample for the blood rage cure. On the way, Matthew gets to know that Benjamin was the one who triggered Jack's blood rage and made him into a vicious killer. However, this was not the only issue bugging Matthew. At New Orleans, despite Marcus' insistence, his vampire daughter, Geraldine, does not budge on meeting Matthew. Apparently, Macca's family is not a huge fan of Matthew because of some of his past acts, which were mainly killing a bunch of blood-raged vampires. Marcus asks extremely nicely to give Matthew another chance, but Geraldine is pretty insistent on not seeing him again. She does so eventually because Matthew is waiting for her outside her workplace. Geraldine is short with him, and Matthew gives her the same energy by saying that she should send his message to Ransom, another member of her clan. But Geraldine refuses to do so and leaves the site, making Matthew seethe with anger. Marcus, on the other hand, is still mad at Matthew for hiding the truth about his identity, and now his anger has reached another level. He is pissed that Matthew is stopping him from mending relations with his clan by threatening them, but Matthew says he is not working fast enough. They both soon realize that Jack is missing from the house, so he runs to look for him. Matthew traces Jack's scent to a graveyard where he is struggling to keep his blood rage in control. Matthew holds him tight and asks him to focus on the exercise he taught. Jack's anger subsides, but he is still quite shaken up by another blood rage episode. Matthew says that it is hard controlling blood rage and can take time to learn, but hopefully there will be a cure before then. Meanwhile, Diana is on a mission to complete the Book of Life. She already has 1 page, but she wants to find another 2 so that she can move on with the Book of Life. Since Phoebe is a historian, she offers her help to trace the location of Kelly's letter. Diana knows that Kelly must have sent each page to different species, and her getting the first page meant that she got the page of witches. Now she only had to find the vampires and demons pages. Phoebe finds a lead which says that the Book of Soiga might have some more answers. Diana goes to the library the next day with Gallowglass and looks for any hint. But the book is not answering her, so she creates a bubble using her magic to get privacy from the watchful eyes. Inside the bubble, she uses her magic to find the hidden secret, and suddenly, the letter starts moving. The letter H flies and sits on her wrist, where she gave blood to Father Hubbard. She realizes that the other page is with Hubbard, so she hurriedly leaves the library to go talk to him. At his office, Hubbard is inducting another member into his flock. But then he sees the evil witch, Peter Knox, waiting for him. He gets done with his work and goes to meet Knox, but he is hostile and awkward with him. Peter says that Kelly must have sent him a letter containing information about a page, but Hubbard denies having it. Hubbard says that he has already forwarded the letter to someone else, but Knox threatens him and his flock, saying that he will harm them if Hubbard does not hand over the letter. He tries to cast a spell, but Hubbard is quick and holds Knox by his neck. He asks Knox not to make the mistake of threatening him. Knox is scared of him and leaves the place with his ego rightfully bruised. After a while, Diana comes to Hubbard, who informs her that Knox paid him an amusing visit earlier. Diana gets nervous hearing the news about him, but she says she is here for the same reason. She says that now that Knox is aware of Hubbard's possession, he will hurt his flock to get the paper. Hubbard realizes that Diana is telling the truth, and the only reason he can save his clan is by relying on Diana and her power. He stands up and goes to his room, and takes out a painting. Behind the board, there is a paper hidden, which he gladly gives to Diana, but he makes her promise that no harm will come to his flock. Diana reassures that she will try her best, but given the circumstances, no one is completely safe. But Diana is a member of his flock, so he is willing to put his trust in her and give her a chance. On the other hand, Marcus is still adamant about doing things his way. He visits Ransom's bar at night, where the members of his clan are waiting for him. Geraldine meets him and says that Marcus betrayed his clan members and their trust. Morris is not ashamed of his actions, but he is in a hurry and wants to meet Ransom so he can talk on Matthew's behalf. Geraldine refuses, but Ransom is already listening, so he straightens up and talks to Marcus. He shows his disdain for Matthew because of his bloody past, but Marcus defends him. Ransom says that if Matthew wants their help, he needs to accept his wrongdoings. That is to confess his past murders. Marcus knows that Matthew will not agree, so he sighs and leaves the place. The next day, Ransom meets Jack in the graveyard, and seeing him, he figures out that he has blood rage. He asks a few questions, but Jack only replies politely, and this makes Ransom only more skeptical about him. In the past, Matthew killed blood-raged vampires on the orders of Philippe. But he has spared mysterious Jack from his wrath, and this only makes Ransom softer and more curious. Later he texts Matthew that he is ready for a meeting, and Matthew tells Marcus that he will meet Ransom and his clan alone. Marcus is hesitant, but he lets Matthew go and deal with his own guilt. At Ransom's club, Matthew meets everyone, and he is a little hesitant in his actions. Ransom asks why he spared Jack. Matthew replies that he has changed and he is not a killer anymore. Ransom gets angry and says that Matthew is a hypocrite because he is choosing to save a person close to him and defying orders from the congregation. Matthew starts to describe the victims that he killed so that Ransom and his clan see how sincere he is. It takes hours for him to complete the list, and by the end, everyone is full of emotion, especially Matthew. Ransom realizes that Matthew did what he had to do and accepts his apology. He agrees to help him in creating a new scion and shakes hands with Matthew. On his ride back home, Matthew feels a burden lift off his chest, and he calls Diana to hear her voice. They both exchange heartfelt I love yous, and Matthew finally reaches home to his sons. He tells both of them that the meeting was successful, and he finally apologizes to Marcus, which he quietly accepts. Previously, we saw that Diana was able to get 2 of the 3 lost pages from the Book of Life. But the last one is still left, and Diana wants that as soon as possible. Thanks to Phoebe, she already has one lead which says that the page is with a demon. But now Diana is struggling with locating him. She tries to cast a locator's spell but has no luck. She takes a break and goes downstairs to the rest of her family. They all are working hard to track the demon, but again, there is no lead whatsoever. Diana says that only the locator's spell can help them now, and Sarah seconds this idea by saying that they will need a coven. Gallowglass and Fernando quickly jump in to say that a coven is a very risky move, but Sarah says that a trustworthy coven will protect them. And Diana knew just the one. Meanwhile, it is apparent that Gallowglass has feelings for Diana, deeper than any person should have for a pregnant married woman. Fernando catches the look in his eyes and says that he needs to leave before he can be a danger to himself. He says that Galloglass deserves to be happy, and he cannot be satisfied till he has found love somewhere else. Diana takes Sarah and Galloglass to the street that she went to in the 16th century. She is going to Goody Alsop's workshop, and there, a witch, Linda, greets her. She says that they all have been waiting for Diana's arrival. Diana meets the rest of the coven and quickly says that she needs their help to find someone. Linda is happy to help, and they all start working on the spell. Diana spills salt and casts spells which cause the white sat to turn into different locations. A while later, Diana finds the exact address where the demon is living. On the other hand, Matthew, Marcus, and Ransom are talking on the porch when Miriam comes to the house. She demands to talk to Matthew alone, and a confused Matthew follows her. He does not understand why she traveled so far away when she should be working on the cure, but she says that Matthew has been ignoring her calls, so she had to fly and tell him the new discovery herself. She breaks the news and tells him that the blood rage gene only becomes dominant when it meets its trigger, and in Matthew's case, the specific triggers are in his human blood. She tells him that there might not be a cure for blood rage because they cannot eliminate the trigger magically. Matthew is shocked and distressed by the revelation. He feels like a failure and thinks that maybe everything was his fault. For the next few days, he sulks and sinks back into his depressive episode. While Diana, Sarah, and Galloglass continue their hunt and go to the demon's house. Galloglass can feel a heartbeat, but no one answers the door. But Diana suggests a side door, which she uses to get inside without a regard for her safety. There she finally sees a demon with a bat in an attacking position. He is terrified of Galloglass, and in peace, Diana asks Galloglass to leave the house for a while. Diana and Sarah try to convince the demon, Timothy, to give them the paper, but he acts really strange. He starts playing piano for them, and when Sarah offers to do a spell to find the page, he gets angry and acts paranoid. Diana realizes that she cannot just take the page from him, so she needs to think of something else. She goes to Agatha's house and asks for her help. Agatha gladly accompanies her and happily meets a fellow demon. Agatha feels for the mentally ill demon who has been forced to be isolated from everyone. She talks to Timothy and says that they all really need the page, and suddenly sensing good vibes from her, he agrees. He finally gives the paper to Diana, who now has the last page of the Book of Life. Agatha promises that she will help Timothy, and then they both leave. Diana says to Agatha that it is time the covenant is replaced because their ideas are outdated. But as they both are discussing politics, Diana suddenly goes into labor. Fernando calls Matthew and his crew, telling them that it is time to come back home, and they all hurriedly leave. They arrive in London hours later, and Matthew rushes to Diana, who is in a tub going through the intense pain of labor. Matthew goes by her side and kisses and encourages her. For the next few hours, Diana gives birth to two beautiful babies, a boy and a girl. Diana says that she would like to name the boy Philippe, while Matthew says that he wants to name the girl Rebecca. They both smile, looking at each other in their little bundles of joy and astonishment. Previously, Diana gave birth to two adorable babies and named them Philippe and Rebecca. But, just as things were getting better for Diana, Agatha found herself in an extremely sad situation. After leaving Diana at her house, she goes to Timothy's place to check on him. But upon reaching there, she finds Timothy's body lying on his dining table with a circle of salt around him. It is clear that he is by a witch, and Agatha realizes that it must be Knox. Out of sympathy and love, she holds a standard funeral for him, and even Diana attends it. Seeing the murder of a member of the species, Diana promises Agatha that she will avenge the death of her friend, and that she will make sure that the outdated conjugation rules are ousted. Meanwhile, in Venice, Gerbert now holds the vampire seat in the congregation, and this has made Baldwin a follower instead of a leader. Gerbert says that Diana and Matthew's children are in direct contradiction to the covenant, and that they need to be eliminated. Baldwin is slightly horrified by the idea of ending the babies' lives, yet alone his own family. But Gerbert, being Gerbert, does not even flinch after saying such a disgusting thing about two innocent souls. Baldwin refuses to do so but says that he will assess the kids so that he can figure out what they are. On the other hand, Issa is ecstatic about having her grandchildren at home. She greets everyone happily and even offers Sarah support for coming back. She then meets Jack and gives him a warm welcome. After all, he is also her grandson. Diana and her family are here for the christening of her children and to gather before they can plan their next move. Issa tells Matthew that she has invited Baldwin as an act of courtesy, but Matthew is not too interested in knowing that. By not ending Jack's life and making his own scion, Matthew has been in open rebellion against the head of the family, that is Baldwin. Not to mention that Baldwin is in the congregation, so despite being family, he is considered a threat to them. Issa warns that the dark times are coming and that this christening will determine who is on whose side. Later, Matthew and Jack have father-son bonding time together. They finish the cradles they both made for the twins. But Matthew notices that Jack is uncomfortable. He asks what he is thinking and Jack says that he is afraid that Benjamin has gone into hiding. He thinks that Benjamin is deciding something big and horrifying, and that might include the twins. Matthew assures that Benjamin is no threat unless they are in the de Clermont land, but Jack promises that if things ever go south, he will do anything for his little brother and sister. Matthew is proud of his son, but soon the two vampires smell blood and hurry downstairs. There Diana is feeding baby Rebecca using her blood, and Matthew gets angry looking at this. He gets worried and lashes out at Diana because now he knows that one of his kids is a vampire. But Diana dismisses him and says that whatever their children inherit, they both will deal with it together. After a little back and forth, Matthew gives in and says that he is just worried about the well-being of their twins. The next day, at the christening, Matthew and Diana carry their twins down the aisle, and when the priest calls upon their godparents, half the crowd stands up. Diana feels like every person in their lives has a role to play, and they all are only good influences on their future babies. Diana and Matthew announce the full name of the twins, which includes a tribute to all the people who lost their lives fighting the species war. Sarah, Martha, and Issa are clearly moved by the gesture, but as they are all focused on the babies, a smug Baldwin emerges into the room and sophisticatedly apologizes for being late. He then asks the new parents to just hand over their babies to him so that he can take them back to Venice for evaluation. Diana hurriedly gives the babies to Martha and Sarah while Matthew gets heated with his brother. She defends her children by saying that they are kids and part of the de Clermont family, and that is all one needs to know. Baldwin insists, and things go south between the two brothers. They both attack and mercilessly hit each other in anger and pain. Diana intervenes and puts an end to the fight by using fire and wind, making both vampires stop their brutal attack. Diana refuses to give her babies and promises that she will spellbind anyone who is an uncontrolled member of their scion. Baldwin accepts and says that they all will have to submit to the congregation otherwise. Later, when all the madness dies down, Diana plays with her children, but then Martha announces that a witch has come and is looking for help. She goes downstairs to see a bruised and distressed witch sitting and her family surrounding her. Apparently, her name is Linda, and she was kidnapped by Benjamin because he is weirdly obsessed with Diana and wants to shape Linda into his fantasies. Matthew and Diana are disgusted by this, and Matthew says that he will find and end Benjamin's life so that he can get done with him once and for all. At night, Diana asks Matthew not to leave alone and take her with him so that she can use her power to help. But Matthew refuses and says that she needs to be with the twins because they will need protection. Diana seems to understand that they have to divide and conquer, but then she kisses him hard as if she is not ready for a goodbye. They both seem to forget all their worries and finally have some much-needed alone time together. Last time, we saw Matthew bid Diana goodbye to fight a war against his own son, Benjamin. Diana has made peace with the fact that they both have to part ways for a little while, so she supports his decision in front of the family. The next morning, Matthew leaves for Poland, where Benjamin has been holding the witches as hostages. Diana, on the other hand, announces that she will go back to Oxford to retrieve the Book of Life. Marcus tries to stop her, saying that it is too dangerous to go outside, but Diana is persistent on ending this once and for all. Diana says that her Aunt Sarah will accompany her, and Fernando volunteers as well. But he says that he will leave separately and will meet Diana at Oxford. He then leaves early and goes to a tattoo parlor, where he finds Gallowglass trying to mend his broken heart. Fernando says that Diana needs Gallowglass because Matthew has left for a side mission, and Diana is persistent in finding the Book of Life. Next, Diana reaches the Oxford Library, where it all started. She then sees Gallowglass and hugs him tightly, telling him that she misses him. Gallowglass urges her to finish what was started. Confident and determined, Diana and Sarah go inside the library, leaving the two vampires outside as guards. Just like before, Diana asks for Ashmole 782, and the librarian puts in a request. Diana patiently waits, but her mind wanders into a million ways things can go wrong. A beep indicates that the requested books have arrived, and when the librarian checks, Ashmole 782 is not there. Sarah sighs in disappointment, and Diana turns around, but her witch senses start to tingle. She asks the librarian to check the lift again, and when she does, behold, Ashmole 782 is there. Diana thanks her, but the librarian gets suspicious of Diana and starts looking at her as she opens the book. Sarah then asks Diana to put a privacy bubble around them to keep them safe. She does so and opens the book she has worked so hard to see. The book is still incomprehensible, but Diana uses the pages to mend the power. Once the book is whole again, sudden shock waves emerge, sending them far outside the library. Gallowglass and Fernando also feel it, and so do other creatures. The books start flipping pages hurriedly, but Diana uses her hands to stop them. But as she does so, the content of the book starts traveling from the pages to her wrist. She goes into a trance where she starts saying lines from the book, and Sarah gets spooked by it. She says that they do not have a lot of time, so they should leave fast. They put a disguise spell on the book and hurriedly leave the library. Outside, Gallowglass comments that Diana is acting differently, and she says that she feels different. Upon reaching their car, Sarah opens the book to check it again. but all the pages are empty. She then looks at Diana, whose skin is crawling with letters. They all realize that Diana now has all the information from the book and is now the personified Book of Life. But they are not out of danger yet, so they leave for the Septors. On the other hand, Matthew enters the abandoned hospital that Benjamin is using to hurt witches. He smells blood and all the horrors Benjamin has conducted here. Benjamin is not there, so Matthew patiently waits for him to arrive. When Benjamin returns from his sinister errands, he sees Matthew waiting for him along with Philippe's watch. The watch confirms that the hospital is the same place where Philippe was tortured. To hurt Matthew further, Benjamin admits that he was the vampire who was in charge of Philippe, and he very much enjoyed his grandfather. Matthew loses his cool, and the two vampires start fighting each other. Benjamin is powerful, but Matthew is older and more experienced. They both punch and push each other, but in the end, Matthew makes Benjamin unconscious. He goes on to eliminate his mistake once and for all, but suddenly he receives a shock and falls to the ground. Sadhu emerges from the corridor, indicating that she was the backup Benjamin had, to make sure Matthew does not leave alive. And she proved to be a reliable witch. Talking about fighting your demons, Diana and Sarah encounter Knox while they are about to board the helicopter. By the looks of it, he has completely lost it. With an evil glint in his eyes, he asks for the Book of Life, saying that he is the better option for it. But as expected, Sarah refuses. He then makes the mistake of insulting everyone he eliminated. He admits to murdering Rebecca, Stefan and Emily and says that Sia was just a weak kitchen witch. Sarah feels the anger building inside her and starts using the spell, creating witch wind. Knox laughs at her, saying that her magic is not as powerful, but his smile fades as he feels the pressure around him. Diana joins in the spell and gives encouragement to Sarah, who then turns Knox into dust. She finally avenges the death of her beloved family, but she is terrified of the power. She then urges Diana never to give her that type of power again, and they all finally go back to Septors with one less enemy. Back in Poland, Benjamin and Sadhu talk, and there it is revealed that Benjamin is doing all this just to take revenge on Matthew while Sadhu wants Diana so she can fulfill her destiny. At least what she thinks her destiny is. Meanwhile, Diana, who is still brimming with so much information, starts writing it all down so that she can pass it on to others. It's a good day for Miriama and Dr. Chris, who now have concrete data, but Diana goes on to rest for a little while. The next morning when she wakes up, Marcus brings in the bad news and announces that Matthew is being held hostage by Benjamin. He plays that video which shows an almost unconscious Matthew tied to a table while he is slowly bleeding out. He does not have much time left, so Diana needs to make a decision fast if she wants to save the love of her life. Previously we saw that Matthew was held hostage by his own son, Benjamin, and he is not a good host. Matthew is now fighting for his life as Diana and her family are deciding their next move. As they are discussing, suddenly, the door opens, and Baldwin makes another sophisticated entry. He seems confused, and a bit worried about being called in such a hurry. Diana announces that she called and proceeds to show him the video Benjamin sent her the previous night. Benjamin gets angry at seeing his brother in such a vulnerable situation. He then sees the watch on Benjamin's hand that once belonged to Philippe. He realizes that Matthew must be in the same place where Philippe was held captive, and Benjamin aims to torture him the same way Philippe suffered. Diana cannot let history repeat itself, so she gathers the team to rescue her husband. She takes Baldwin, Marcus, Miriam and Galloglass with her and walks into the trap to save the love of her life. When she leaves, Gerbert arrives at Septors to meet Issa. Even though he is an enemy of the family, Issa still lets him enter so that she can hear what he has to say for himself. And unsurprisingly, he asks her to hand over the twins, or he will have to execute Matthew and Diana. Issa is unfazed by the threats, but she does mention how conveniently Gerbert eliminated Philippe from his way. She says that she is aware that Gerbert was the one behind Philippe's imprisonment, and is responsible for his death. But Gerbert is still under the influence of power and greed, and all this does not faze him at all. He then leaves the place after another failed attempt to get his hands on the twins. On the other hand, the helicopter containing Diana and her super squad lands on the building of the hospital. Miriam kicks the door, and Baldwin checks the heartbeats. He says the two vampires are present, as well as a warm blood. But as they go downstairs, Matthew lies there strapped to the chair with his... He tells Diana to end, but when she inspects him, she realizes that it is magic. The fake Matthew screams at her, but she dismisses him with a wave of her hand. Then a voice comes from the hallways, in which Diana can hear her babies crying. She follows the voice, but Sadhu, using telepathy, tells Diana that she will slowly eliminate her team members. Instantly, Diana makes a force field between her and her team, saying that she will go alone. Baldwin tries to stop her, but she does not listen and moves ahead. She opens a door in which Matthew is between her twins. He says that their kids have blood rage and they should be eliminated. Diana is still unfazed by this and asks Sadhu to reveal herself. She does so and tells Diana that she is a weaver as well. Sadhu goes straight to the point and asks Diana to give her the Book of Life. As if she was waiting for the moment, Diana calls the Book of Life within her and tells Sadhu that she is the book. Sadhu gets angry at her and starts saying the centuries-old prophecy about a witch with the blood of a lion, and a wolf. Sadhu tells her that the prophecy is about her, not Diana. But Diana tells her otherwise. Sadhu uses her magic to do her signature pose, but Diana uses her magic to bind Sadhu slowly. She spellbinds Sadhu, saying that her power is making her evil. She then leaves to look for her husband while Sadhu lies in the corner crying. She senses Benjamin and goes straight to the room. Benjamin comes outside for their duel, but before he can do anything, Diana makes a bow and shoots an arrow through his heart. Benjamin falls to the ground, and Diana says that she has done justice. She then goes to her husband and sees that he is almost drained of blood. Marcus arrives and says that the only way to save him is to give him the blood of his sire, but Issa is miles away from them. However, Diana is not ready to let him go. In the next scene, Matthew is back at Septur's and Issa pours a few drops of blood into her son's mouth. The following night, Diana sleeps on the chair, but a voice awakens her. She sees that Matthew is awake now and is calling her. They both finally reunite, making our heart swoon. Later, Chris and Miriam explain their findings from the Book of Life to the family. They say that demon DNA is the most important in all three creatures, and it helped the survival of creatures for centuries. But after the Covenant, the DNA decreased in the species, causing them to die out and lose their power. Baldwin realizes that he was wrong and apologizes to Diana and Matthew. Diana says that she has to tell the congregation about the discovery, but Baldwin says that it will be dangerous. Matthew chips in and says that Diana does not need protection but love and support from the family. Baldwin agrees, and they all go to Venice. Upon seeing Diana, Gerbert practically jumps with excitement. He thinks that de Clermonts are here to imprison Diana, but Baldwin says that Diana is the new head of the de Clermont clan. Confident, she goes up to the door and opens the doors. Gerbert tries to take advantage of his power and quickly enlists Diana's crimes. Diana shuts him down by saying that love was made a crime only by the Covenant. She then uses the Book of Life to explain to the other members how interlinked theories all are. She then says that the only one that binds them together is demon DNA, and by preventing them from mating interspecies, the Covenant is destroying them all. Agatha is overjoyed seeing that demons are finally getting their due credit. Diana then passes a motion to overturn the Covenant, and almost everyone votes for her. However, Gerbert is the only one who opposes the motion. But his vote does not count since he was in the minority. She then says that the congregation needs a new leader, and she calls Agatha. Agatha is moved by this and sees that all the creatures are voting for her. Finally, Agatha becomes the new leader, and everyone goes on to congratulate her. Except for Gerbert, who is seething in anger and jealousy. Finally, Diana and Matthew are able to bring stability to the creatures' world, and slowly things start getting good for everyone. Agatha reunites with her family and sighs in contentment when she sees her grandbaby, Margaret. Marcus and Phoebe kiss each other passionately as they are closer than ever, and the future's looking good for them. Matthew and Diana dance with one another again, this time, with all the people they love and cherish. And just like that, the witch with the blood of the lion and wolf brought love and happiness to a cold-hearted vampire.